Hello, everybody. So essentially, this week we are deciding to now do streams where we basically do aftermath of like big parts of things we are covering. More specifically, in series because it's just because something came up a bit there, but I've sorted it. It's because we are mostly deciding to do this. Right, let me start that sentence again. It's just because something like cut me off my mind there. We're doing the stream because after big chunks of stuff in series we're covering, which are mostly going to be like TV shows, we can do that with like movie series as well. But we're going to have like general over talk about stuff. And Skins UK, which we're covering at the minute, has got Generations, and we have just been through the first two series where we go through Gen 1. And this stream is going to go overall about like what we think of the characters, what we think about some storylines, what our favorite episodes of this generation, and even facts, because I've got a few facts that I want to go through on this live stream. And we're obviously got me, another Geek123. We've got Gokuja, which is the co-host with me on this channel, and we've got Shadow VA, who is now going to be doing gaming, like that's going to be talking about classic nostalgic games every of the 25th of the month. But he's also been going through skins with us. If you have not checked out them 2 episodes yet, please do after the stream. It would mean a lot. So first, guys, we're just going to go through the characters of this generation. I'll add like characters that are like small, but we could still talk about. So let's just dive into it. We'll go with my opinion, Goku's opinion, and then Chelvia's opinion, and go off there if we need to. And yeah, so obviously, I think that probably this is like the character that I think mainly revolves around is Tony Stark. So Tony, to me, I don't really like his personality at all, other than a few things here or there. In the first season, he's very manipulative, but that's his whole character. He sort of runs most of the group, specifically Sid and Michelle, and he runs everything around, manipulates, is overall a bad person. And yeah, we actually eventually see him get his ass kicked by, I forgot the guy's name, Josh. Basically, he gets fucked around by him a little bit back, like how he treats people, and he realizes he's wrong. And then we obviously see him getting hit by the fucking bus at the end of the season, and we start to see a Tony that is very, very dumb because he suffers from a lot of things with his brain. I forget what the actual thing is because I'm not that good with science, but yeah, he loses all of his memories and he has to get them back. And overall, I think the overall arc of this character is very good because he becomes a very, very pure-hearted character at the end of the show. Well, his part of the show, and yeah, I love his character and I loved like season 2 version of him, but again, I just did not like season 1 of him. Gokujo, what's your opinions on Tony?
My opinion overall on Tony is the kind of a weird one. I mean, personally, obviously as a character, I go more towards Sid, but with Tony, he had like the.
Sorry, something has come up, I think.
Do you want me to give my opinion then?
Yeah, quickly give your opinion.
Right, so my opinion on Tony is that he was a very, very confusing character at first because, like, I mean, as I said previously when we first watched Skins, like, his entire character kind of subverts expectations, like, a lot. Like, so I thought he was just a stereotypical lad, like, he wasn't really doing any harm, you know? He came across as, like, he was kind of trying to help his mates out. And then, like, later on in Season 1, he just turned out to be a complete twat. Like, he cheated on Michelle, like, multiple times. Like, he fucked him over, and he was very, very manipulative. And then in Season 2, he kind of get his redemption arc. So, like, I didn't really like Tony's character to begin with. Like, I liked him as a character, but not really as a person, if you get what I mean. Like, he was such a shitty person, like, in Season 1. And then, like, he was trying to... I liked the plot device that he did, though, when, like, Tony was trying to atone for what he's done to Michelle, and then he gets hit by a fucking bus. Like, it was quite a very, very good turning point for his character, though, because, like, you know, it's kind of karma, really, in essence. And then in Season 2, he's trying to work his way back up and trying to get to the point where he was before, but he also improved quite a lot as a person. in that scene. Like he was still pretty funny, like when it came to the later episodes in terms of his attitude. But like seeing him like really weak and like a complete shell of his former self was it was very jarring to me as like a viewer, because like, well, it's like as much as he was a cunt, he didn't deserve that, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see him, be fucking rendered, like, and not being able to remember everything as well.
Yeah, no one
Like
deserves
that
to
kind
go
of hit
for
a bit hard.
it. Yeah,
But then,
I totally agree with that, yeah. Sorry, just quickly going off from one of your points, I totally agree with the whole thing with episode 1. Episode 1, yeah, he has his dickish moments to specifically Sid in that episode, but I think any person would get quite pissed off if someone didn't answer the phone and that and time it well and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it sort of seems like he's just sort of like a cheeky lad, other than like the few snaps. And yeah, I agree that yeah, it's the way the character's written. They make it seem like it's how the characters themselves view him at the start of the show. We think, oh, he might be a bit controlling with stuff, like a like a clear-headed person, but he's doing good for the thing. And then you slowly realize, especially in the fucking Russian trip episode, that no, he's just doing it for his own fucking good. No, not everyone's good. And in the episode where he fucks around with Sid and Michelle.
Yeah, like I did like at the end though, at the end of season 2, where like he's kind of completely got back to where he was, like especially the scene where he goes to the uni interview, where it's kind of like his second coming, like his rebirth. Like, I loved that part because he became like he's still Tony, but he's also a better like refined version of himself, and he's willing to help out like Sid, for example. I mean, he even drove Sid like at the end. He even drove Sid to the fucking airport and then bought him tickets.
Exactly.
Which was like a really good turning point because he treated Sid like shit in the first place. Like he treated Sid like he was absolutely useless, but then again, it kind of shows that he might have been a bit mixed up though in the first season because like his attitude changed, but it wasn't really like it's kind of like if he was malicious to begin with, like completely malicious, then like he wouldn't have changed. But like it kind of showed that he was very, very confused as a person, and he didn't really know where he stood, and like his intentions were very, very misplaced. And then at the end, like when he said like to Sid that he always loved him the best, like it was so fucking sad. It was so fucking sad though, but it was also like a very, very sweet moment because like we kind of know that Tony's true intent. Then it kind of explains like a lot, even just like short line. Like it was so emotional, but it was really good, and it was a very, very good send off for Tony's character.
What I think of that, yeah, that's one of my favourite scenes. But the whole thing with it is, I think that's the reason why they wanted people to sympathise for Tony if they watched season 1, is to see in that last episode that he was confused and he wanted to change because he admits to Sid the episode before. The whole reason why I do this is because I think people like me being the controller, want to get what I want and all that.
Yeah.
He explains himself to Sid, and then we see him starting to use all this manipulation for good, like getting Sid out to try and catch Cassie on time, all of that stuff, and he phones Michelle, which is literally the same time when he gets hit by the bus. We see him where he finally tells her he loves her, which he's been asking for him to do when he was still being a dickhead. And yeah, you feel so bad when you see that. When you see that, you feel horrible for him. You're like, oh wait, like he's just changing. And then I imagine being the viewer back then, waiting for like a year or so, or like half a year. I can't remember how long it is between the seasons, but I imagine being a viewer like that wanted to see Tony become a better person. Seeing that, imagine it. But
Fucking hell.
is there anything else you want to add on to Tony?
I'm trying to think now, because like,
because Gokuja has just texted me, so we'll have to wait a bit to see more of his opinions and that.
I'm trying to think of what I actually want to add on to Tony now, because
Could talk about Nicholas Hoult. He's acting with it.
1 second.
Well, just to go off for viewers, because I see that Cal, you have messaged, "What's up, my dude? I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good, mate." Um, Nicholas Hoult, obviously a famous actor. If you're a superhero watcher, he did play Beast recently until, Big Boy Disney have now got control of the X-Men franchise, and exceptional actor. He was it's in one of the facts, but he was in a movie when he was very young with famous actors, but I forgot the name of it until I literally see the fact. But exceptional actor, and I think this is his stepping stone. This whole series itself is about they cast people that are amateur actors to get them boosted up even more. Nicholas Hoult, was the most popular of that cast at the time, but he was still an amateur actor, and he's shown his A game in this. Instead of being the typical little kid actor where he was like, "I'm going to be quite cheeky. I'm going to show that I've got exceptional well with learning lines as being a kid." He's now a teenager. He can do all of that, and here we rarely see him play a character very well. You can see him being overpowering, especially in season 1. We could see him being upset like we do in the later season 1 and the rest of season 2, and we could see him actually be very lightheaded and scared of things fairly well. The way if we had a horrible actor playing Tony, that show would not have worked at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It was very weird though, because he became the lead in One Bodies as well.
yes, he was. That film was amazing.
I haven't seen the film. I read the book though.
It's not as good as the book, but it's a very small movie. I think people. It came around when Skins was still a thing, so people would. If stan culture was a thing back in the day, there would be fan pages. There were fan pages of Nicholas Hoult, and most of them were titled "Warm Bodies" instead of Skins. I've only watched it twice, but the movie is great for what the approach they did it with the book. His acting was spectacular in that. You see him be like, he obviously narrates over it, but you see him be like such dead things while you see him so dead movements and that, but he still expresses emotions with it, with the way he narrates over the movie. It's great. I would recommend the film. I used to rewatch it myself, but yeah, a lot of things he's been in.
To be fair though, like his actor for Tony though was fucking amazing. Like it was just like even without like stating stuff though, like his character had such depth just from the way he acted as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't just like a black and white thing. Even when he was trying to be manipulative, like it wasn't. You could kind of see the intent even in season 1, even though it wasn't even stated. Like it was very subtle things like that, like his expression as well.
It's essentially the actor that I quite liked a lot, but it's quite an obvious technique that you would do with that type of character. But in the episode 1 of season 2, where he's on the bus with Maxie, my favourite thing out of that, because I've got linked experiences with car accidents and that, is where it's literally, it was a planned scene, but it was brilliantly acted by Holt, like, for being a quick scene. So he's the bus flash past, and he starts like holding on to Tony's hand, and it's the way he rushes, and even Mitch Howarth, and that's his name, that plays Maxie. He did a great job in that scene. That way, he had to calm him down. I think that's all we have to say for Tony before Okuji comes back. And when Okuji comes back, I could ask him what the characters and that he's missed. So we can move on to Michelle, which is obviously Tony's main partner in the series, which she does have a bit of thing with Sid in season 2, but overall, she's my least favourite out of the generation, other than Sketch, because I'm going to count Sketch in like the last couple of characters, but in the main core of generation, I would say Sketch is in count because she's in season 1.
Sketch is really a good character, to be fair, and Michelle is one of those.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't give my Tony opinion before, because there was a bit of a kerfuffle, may I say. So essentially, what I was going to go on from Tony was that Tony, as you have explained, is a manipulative character. But in terms of his whole arc, it does finish on a very good note, with him finally going from finally stopping being a manipulator for Sid, to Sid finally having control to where he can actually tell Tony no. And he, quote-unquote, just straight up ignores Tony when he says that literally his beanie looks stupid on him. He finally gets to that stage where he's like, yeah, I've had a kind of enough of your character and things like that. So essentially, Tony has a really weird character development where he kind of goes back to Sid in Season 1. Because you see a lot more in Season 2. Sid's a lot more developed, but we'll obviously get on to Sid in a minute. But Tony, he goes from manipulative, and obviously after the car accident and after everything else happens, he turns into more of this weird, bittersweet character where it's like, you don't know whether he's still pretending, because he's already had the audience fooled for Season 1. So if he was fooling it now, you kind of question it, if you get me. And that's what I like about his character. It's more like, you can think he is still an anti-villain, even when he is not even, like, it's meant to be, because Sketch was the villain in that series, if you get me. Series 2. But you still have that clouding feeling of where he goes up to Sid and matches up and basically says, look, leave Michelle alone and all this stuff. That it's basically... For God's sake. That it's basically just a whole... It's a whole bunch of things just into one. And it's great, honestly. His character is one of the best. Not the best, because we all know what the best character is, but his character is one of the best. So yeah, going next on to Michelle from what you were saying before, Sean.
Could I just quickly add on to that, because you made a point.
Yeah.
What was the point again? Because I literally went a bit wrong. Right, what he was saying was that even in Season 2 he's not meant to be a villain. The example I'll give to that is, it's not even where he's like going up to Sid and he's like, oh, don't talk to Michelle and that, or don't do anything with Michelle. It's the whole point is like, we see the scene where Michelle and Sid are talking about the accident and don't realise that anyone's around, and then it's where she turns around and she's like, oh shit and that, and then Tony's there sitting, and it's like, he's not trying to be scary, he's generally scared sitting there, but he's scaring her from flashback. He's still, like, his old presence is still there to her, and even Sid in some parts. And yeah, it's just, and then it's even where you think, oh, he's just being innocent and she's scared. He even ends up standing up because I will remember to her, which really mindfucks with her, and even that some of the audience got mindfucked with like some of them lines. Yeah, it's kind of on Michelle though. Not saying what she's told the partner. He had things with Sid in Season 2, but I'll get that in a second.
Yeah.
Again, least favourite out of the course. What I was saying with the gen was that I don't count Sketch to really be a main part of the gen like everyone else, because she was in Season 1, but you only got to know her character in Season 2. But out of the main gen, Michelle, admittedly, is my least favourite. I feel like she gets the least... Like, people say it's Anwar, but we'll get on to him later on, but I feel like she gets the least development to me. Yeah, fair enough, she becomes a bit of an independent woman, but then she literally ends up being with Tony again, because I think it's in my facts again, but I'll skip over it. It has been said by the creators in the Q&A that she just ends up being with Tony in the end of all of it. So it's just like, well, she doesn't become an independent woman because she just ends up being with Tony. Yeah, she might stand up to him. We don't really see her stand up to him. Like, it doesn't have that context. And yeah, that's why I think it is. It's least development. What I see in a character is first thing I see in a character is either relatable or have they got good qualities, and the second one is, oh, what's their arc and story like, and then the third is like, oh, overall, did they even change the person in their story? And she doesn't really hit any of them for me. So maybe it's because I'm a boy, so the relatability most likely will not be there. Yeah, just moving on with main things with her. Her relationship with Tony's been covered a little bit. She obviously gets cheated on quite a lot by Tony. Cheats a lot with the main thing with Abigail, and he kisses Maxie, and that at the trip to Maxie just eventually just roasts the shit out of him, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on. But yeah, she and the biggest example of what I'm going to say is where basically the episode where she finally hits Tony and storms off and calls Maxie a slut and that. Chow goes up to her and Chow's like, I tried telling you, Michelle, and she's like, I don't care and all that because she's angry. But that's the whole thing about her character in season 1. She's naive. She thinks she can have this perfect life with Tony and be the popular girl that everyone fancies, but she has her problems. Her biggest problem that we see the most is because Tony's the main character of the season. But her biggest problem that we see is the whole relationship with Tony, showing how she's that naive that she will not admit that Tony is cheating on her until that point where she's had enough. But we also see things with her family. That's my favourite part of Michelle's character, her thing with her family. She's only got one main core family member, which is her mother, but we see that from Danny Dyer's character Malcolm, and then whatever the character is, the posh guy that she goes out with his mother in season 2, with her mother in season 2. Yeah, we see that she has quite a broken relationship, and that's the thing that gets developed the most, other than like the whole Tony storyline. But again, I don't think she got developed in that part of that. But we see her hating her mother at the start of it. We see her like hating her for how she gets with men and that, but she kind of does that herself, and she learns from that. And then eventually you see her and her mother having a great relationship. She just doesn't like the people that is with her mother, which I love to see. But I can't really add anything for her because weirdly enough, I don't really have many thoughts about her since she's not my most favourite. So, could you have got anything to add on to Michelle?
Shit. Sorry. It was very loud. Apologies. Yeah. So in terms of Michelle's character, it's kind of a weird one with Michelle, because obviously, as you said, that the writers didn't know anything, but it would have made a lot more.
Sheb?
Fuck it, I'll interject. You see, like, I found that Michelle's character, in terms of writing, didn't really have too much depth. Like, she was just kind of this, like, popular girl who then basically, you know, got with Tony. She didn't really have any other story arc, as you said. Like, I fully agree with you on that one. And it was like, you can understand where she's coming from, though, in terms of, like, the whole Tony arc where in season 2 when he's, like, pretty much disabled. Like, you can see a frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of does go well with the character. Like, that's the only really thing that I can add really is that like her character then was kind of believable, because like, even though you might want to support somebody, like it's still very traumatic when somebody you love can't remember you, and like it was a very realistic portrayal for her character. But personally, I don't really think her character, like, I found that her character was very, very boring. Like, and I think that I think that's what the writers kind of meant to do. She wasn't really meant to be like a super, you know, important or even interesting character.
Yeah, but I totally agree with what you said, but building on to that is also the fact is I think her character would have been a lot better to me if the creators actually admitted after their talk in the car that they actually broke it off when I went to uni. Yes, fair enough, Tony improved himself, fair enough, they understand each other. But that's the way life works. You have to move on, and after pain, fair enough, you can build towards with someone and be like, oh yeah, I can be friends with you, I can finally understand of how you feel. Sometimes relationships don't work like that. I feel like she should have moved on, had her own life. That would have been it. And yeah, she could have kept in contact with Tony. But I feel like it would have ended way better, because I feel that's what her story was leading to. Especially with the Sid thing. Fair enough, Sid's character was not meant to be with her. Proven, which what we'll talk about later on. But I feel like that, and then also the whole thing with Josh in season 1, which I feel sorry for Josh, but also the fact is I don't think we'll be talking about him, but yeah, just quickly with that comment. But it just, with all of that, I feel like she should have became an independent woman or ended up with someone better. That she can trust fully, because I feel like making her just trust Tony straight away after all of that isn't very good. I feel like she should have. She probably does, and again, they probably didn't get into it, but she should have that feeling where she thinks, yeah, he's back to normal now and he's improved on himself, but he could shift back to being that old personality.
Yeah.
So I feel like she should have been with someone she more trusted, but it's the right choice. We don't always get what we want.
I do think that she should have just moved on, to be fair, though. Like, as much as I did like seeing her and Tony get back together, like it just didn't really show much development as her as a person. Like she just kind of went, like she didn't actually have many thoughts about Tony aside from being upset that he couldn't get it up and that he couldn't remember. Like those are the only kind of like things that actually happened in season 2 really with her. She didn't really have much.
Other than a quick little thing with Sydney, and then she's like, and then soon after that, all she really does other than that talk in the car in the last episode, she's just sort of like, I'm sorry, Cassie, and then we'll just get into Cassie's character with the way she reacts. That's sort of really what she does after all of that. But, Shani, are you there? Or if not, we shall move on until you come back. Okay, 1, 2, 4.
Everything
5.
is quiet
Okay.
now. Good. Right, sorry. Well, hopefully it is. And then, like, obviously it probably won't be in about a second. Right, so, we were on to Michelle still. So what I'm saying with Michelle's character is it's like they didn't write her to... I honestly feel like in Series 1 that they were writing her out to be killed or some shit like that because they were not really giving her that substance. They were introducing us to like very different things in terms of the character, but we weren't actually being introduced to... Well, we didn't get to see her family mainly until Series 2, did we?
No, we've seen a lot of the family in season.
Oh yeah, Series 1, sorry. But yeah, it's like it was like either she was about to get written out of Tony, and to be fair, it was a weird one of where it could have gone either way. I mean, maybe it's writer's decision or maybe it's writer's luck, but personally to me, it kind of feels like that would have been the way, if you get me. That it all would have been handled.
That would have been a way.
I said it could have been a way. But
right.
Yeah, I said it could have been a way because to me it seems like it would make the most sense. I mean, if they didn't know what to do with the character, but I'm guessing the Josh idea was maybe going to be flexed out a bit more, but obviously it wasn't. And then obviously you had the problem with Effie, and then we're not getting into all that. But if you get me, it's a weird one with the character because it's all jumbled all over the place. It's like, what should we do with her? Well, she's like a puppet character where it's like, well, on one side, she can be in this episode supporting someone, and then in the next episode, she could be with this person by herself. She's never really seen as part of the group, if you get me. Because if you look at if you look at it, half of the time that she's doing stuff, or the episodes are centered around her, she's not with anyone half of the time. Only one that I could probably say was probably the one of where, like, obviously, they all go to the beach and things like that. Maybe that's the only one that I could see, because to be fair, and even then, she's not even given the main.
I'd say her friend in it is Jal.
Yeah.
But Jal can't always be there with her because she's got her own, like, we'll get into her cards, but she's got her own problems, she's got her own things to teach. And she's also friends with Cassie, which we very much see in season 1 as well, that they don't really like each other. But just quick thing to say is that I totally agree. I think this is what you're meaning. She's not meant to be a main sort of like character. But she kind of has to be by what she's involved with.
However much it hurts for me to say, she's like a posh Kenneth. Rest in peace, poor soul.
Which we will get on to later on.
Yes, boys.
The characters.
But posh Kenneth is one of those characters that, honestly, to be fair with you, he seemed like he would have been written in at some point. And with Michelle, it seems like this is the perfect thing that could have happened. Though I know it sounds bad. If they had nothing to do with Michelle and they were done with the character, kill off Michelle, introduce Posh Kenneth. Because there's literally a scene of where Jal and Posh Kenneth are still, like, a show going, Randy. So yeah, I'd say something like that, but still, obviously, it didn't happen. So it's not really a matter of when or what would happen. It's more of a chance of when, of like what is going to, if you get me. So was it going to happen, if you get me? So like, was there actually in the writing board when they were writing the scripts and that, were they like, oh, we'll kill off Michelle, and then last minute they thought, no, we'll just do something with Tony. Because it doesn't seem like they knew where they were going with the character. Similar to where you see at first, they knew what they were doing with the characters. Chris at first, obviously. Anwar, I mean, that's an arguable one, to be honest with you, with Anwar. Tony, obviously. Sid, obviously. Maxie, obviously. I mean, Michelle, no. I mean, Jal, possibly, but she wasn't really good for that much show in Series 1 either. and Cassie was given most of the show in series 1. So it's like, it's a weird one. If you go with series 1, you can see that she gets the most like looks in episodes, if you get me, dedicated to her. But series 2, she's just shafted to the side until like the end. If you get me.
Kind of, yeah. Is that all I have to say about my show?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Okay, so I think everyone knows who's next. Sid Jenkins.
Oh.
Sid Jenkins has always been a character I've related to since, because I'd watched the show years ago when I was younger, and I've carried on watching now. It's my favourite like show I'd overall say, to be quite honest. Definitely my favourite like live action type drama show, but Sid Jenkins to me again is so relatable. It literally comes down to the way he dresses as well, doesn't it? I kind of dress the same as well, but I relate to the characteristics he has. Like even at the start of season 1, he's known to be looked at to be lazy, and he eats a fair bit. And yeah, they're the main characteristics. But it's also like things that we dive into even in season 2. And he's like his father's death. I don't have a dead father, but I've experienced death a lot in 1 month of my life, and yeah, Tony goes, the hat looks stupid on you, like the part that he says when he says caring about him to
The
just
server
like,
has decided
oh,
they don't want it to crash, so whatever you've just said in the past 2 minutes, you might have to repeat again.
for God's sake. Oh, God. Thank you, Gokuja server. I don't know if you picked up on the live stream, so sorry if you have to hear me repeat everything again. I'm going to quickly go through it now. Okay, Shane. I'm going to quickly go through everything. And yeah, it might get repeated again by other people because I quickly go over it, but basically, relatable, relate to his looks, relate to his arcs, relate to his basic things of him being lazy, yada 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 that you see at the start of the season, relate to how he feels about a lot of things, relate to his season 2 arc where it's in his own separate episode with his father's death. I have been through. I haven't got a dead father, but I've went through death a lot in my parts of my life, so I know what it is like, and I think it was portrayed very well by Mike Bailey and the way the writers wrote it. And I overall love, and what I was getting into before everything apparently cut, like before I got told everything got cut out, was the fact is I love his. Right, I'm quickly going to go through his main arc that he has with specifically with Tony. It's where we see him start to become his independent person. He's basically sick of being shafted by everyone, especially Tony, and he starts to stand up for himself. The first instance we see of this is in his own episode in season 1 where he ignores Tony's call and just gets on with his coursework, gets it, and presumably he gets it done, which I think he does. And yeah, and then just to go on to the point that Shane said before he was talking about Tony, is the whole thing with, yeah, Tony, he now understands Tony. He now has forgiven Tony and he goes off to New York. But he doesn't listen to everything Tony says. Fair enough, he understands that he cared for him most of the time. But he ignores the stupid point where he goes, okay, sorry, got a text there. I'm sorry about all this. What I'm saying is that he ignores Tony's point where he goes, your hat looks stupid on you. Which, we're saying it like it's a harsh thing that he specifically says harsh. He says it in the middle of his speech. He doesn't say it like a dick. But he ignores that. We see that he has the hat off until he gets to New York. But as soon as he gets into New York, he finally just puts it back on, showing that he ignores some of the stupid things Tony tells him. And it's pretty much everything I have to say. He's my favourite character. Again, I've related to him over these years a lot. Because, again, if no one heard this part, I've watched this show for years now. It's why we're covering it on here, and I'm glad that more people are starting to watch it. Even without watching our own videos, I'm seeing the fan base of Skins is starting to grow a lot again. It's starting to have that ramp again. So I'm loving to see that. And yeah, Sid, I think, is the most relatable character in this whole gen. And yeah, the whole text I got, guys, was that Goku just said that he cannot continue with the live stream. So it'll just be me and Connor for the rest of it. So, Connor, what thoughts have you got about Sid Jenkins?
Sid is probably the most relatable character for me, anyway. Like, I liked kind of how he was written in the first season. Like, he wasn't really... Like, he was a bit of a loser in the first season, but he wasn't, like, shown to be a complete and utter waste of space. Like, he was kind of a loser character who was actually pretty cool, though. If you get what I mean, in the first season, I mean, like, he was a bit... He was Tony's bitch in the first season, really. But his writing was pretty decent. Like, I really did enjoy the plot devices that they made him do. Like, for example, like, the whole, you know, 3 fucking ounces of fucking weed. Absolute mad lad just goes for it, and then he almost gets fucking into much trouble then. The whole Cassie arc was really good, because that kind of shown, like, that did, like, manage to make a device for his, like, character development, considering, like, Cassie was, like, fawning over him, and then he was just there, and he didn't really acknowledge it, because he was too wrapped up in Michelle, who was going out with somebody who wouldn't even go out with him. And he was just very, very fucking... He was a bit of a pussy in that respect, because he didn't really know. He was very, very blind. And then the whole thing with Jal, and he gets fucking... He gets Jal's, what's it called, what even is the instrument now? It's not a flute, it's
Clarinet.
Clarinet, that's it. Yeah, so he ends up like getting her clarinet completely fucked, and then like that was kind of like it didn't really serve as much as advice for his development, but like he kind of did learn that like his actions like affect other people, but it's not really touched upon until season 2, and like you know, like Sid's character development as well in season 2 was really good, considering like he thought that Cassie was cheating on him when she actually wasn't, considering they were gay. And like it kind of shows like Sid's characters like assume everything, because like he did do it quite a lot in season 2. For example, like I mean a classic example was when Tony was trying to get him laid, and then he was like, and then Michelle walks in, he's like, with Michelle. It's just like he's just like fucking over the moon about it, and it's like, no, don't assume, dude. And then the whole thing with Cassie sleeping with everybody else, and then I mean, for example, he was Tony's bitch, and then basically, I'm going around in circles now. But from going from Tony's bitch to then he was there for Tony. He was still Tony's bitch even when he was in hospital, when he was in a coma. And then he just went, you know what, fuck this. He was like, you know what, like he kind of acknowledged that Tony treated him like shit, and he was like, you know what, like I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like I can't bear to watch. And then Tony was like kind of not really pining after Sid, but he was like. He was very, very reliant on Sid, even though he wasn't really there. Which was kind of nice, considering, like, Sid used to be the person that everybody went to. And then, basically, and, like, none of his shit got sorted out. Like, no one really cared about his shit, yet he went to everybody else. Like, everybody else just went, you know what, fucking... Sid'll sort it out. Sid'll sort it out. And then, like, eventually Sid went, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna do my own thing. And then with the whole Cassie thing with him getting with Michelle, he was kind of becoming his own person. It was like a very, very... It was kind of... everything came kind of full circle at that point, though, when Sid slept with Michelle. Because, like, Tony was trying to bait... Tony was, like, convincing Sid that he was going to sleep with Michelle. And then he fucked him over, and then he actually did sleep with Michelle, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed that, like, Sid's kind of defiance towards Tony as well, which was really nice. And then... at the end of season 2, when Sid just went, you know what, fuck this. Like, I need to do something about this, and he gets Cassie back. Which was kind of nice. Like, that was a really nice plot device. And just in general, the fact that Sid went from being, like, essentially a people pleaser to being, like, his own person.
Yeah.
And not taking any shit from anyone else, like, standing up for himself when people have been pissing him off. Or just treating him wrongly. Like, it was a really, really nice thing to see, to be fair, because, like, I was always rooting for Sid in the beginning. Like, I always wanted Sid to become his own person. So
Oh,
yeah.
the whole reason of why I watch his show is actually because my dad teased me at times, called me Sid, because he would say, because I wore a beanie a few times, and he would always used to call me Sid because of the show, and then it came to the point where I watched it, and then I was more interested in the Sid character, because I was like, why is my dad keep calling me this? And that's where it was like the relatability of him came. I was like, yeah, so I always rooted for Sid at the start. I always thought he was, like, the first time I watched it, I always intended him to be a main character. Which he kind of is. He kind of is one of the main core characters of this generation. But obviously, yeah, I think in my own opinion, Tony's mostly the main character overall from the generation. So yeah, agree with that one. I think overall, just talk about the stream, guys. I think I'm going to skip over characters. I think we're just going to do the core members of the whole generation one. I'll add Sketch onto there quickly, but. Yeah, I don't think we'll talk about posh kind of characters like that because I feel like we've got a lot to say about these separate characters, and then we can get into facts now. And I think we could just end it off there after just saying our favorite episodes and that. So the next character is Cassie. Cassie, in my opinion, by overall look at the fan base of these years, is quite the most controversial character in this generation, if not the show, in my opinion. Because at one point people are like, one side is like saying that she's very, very much of a bitch after all of this stuff, and then another side are like, oh, she's just standing up for herself. I personally think, she can be a bitch in scenes, but I am on the side where I think she's like Sid Jenkins, but she's a bit more aggressive with it. Obviously, she falls in love with Sid. At the start of the show because she falls to anyone because of the way she's been treated by people, and Sid, is a bit of a dick to her, a lot of a dick to her in certain parts of the show. But overall, he is the one that actually asks her questions, oh, are you okay? And he even tells her before Tony comes on and starts being a dickhead, and obviously Bumboy Sid has to follow him, but he even opens up to Cassie and goes, I care, to her. When she says no one does. She very much represents the whole eating disorder side of teenagers, which is a very big thing around the world and very much a big thing with even boys, not just girls in the UK, to be quite honest. And yeah, she's very much ill, but we see that's her arc as well. She's not totally fixed, but she overall knows what she wants in life by the end of season 2, I think. With her running away and that type of stuff, because everything comes down to her. But yeah, I feel like she has the right. Just going back to it, I feel like she has the right to be a bitch in some scenes, because especially to Michelle. Michelle was the biggest bitch throughout that whole generation, and she's had enough of people. She's been through all of this shit, and she realizes I'm going to give this. Think of it with a family. We see from her and her family that her family seem nice, but you start to see her family really that are just acting happy. They're more the couple are more focused on each other. They don't really focus on a younger brother as well. Where the point where sometimes Cassie has to look after her younger brother, even though they literally start going, "Oh, have a good time," here and there, where it's literally addressing you are ill and all that type of stuff. But it's like that, and then she opens up to these people. Well, most of these people in this generation, and they just sort of like, except for Jal always sticks by her, apart from like when she has her own problems in season 2. But Cassie still sticks by her then, most of the part. But overall, she's just like, I have opened up to you guys, and most of you guys are just turning around telling me to fuck off, and all this stuff. And obviously, when they start to try and be nice to her after all this shit, especially when she comes back to find out her boyfriend has been cheating on her with Michelle, because fair enough, Sid thought that he was getting cheated on by her, but yeah, she finds that out, and she's obviously going to slap Sid, even though she still is quite in love with him. And she's obviously going to act like a bitch to Michelle, when Michelle's going to be like, I'm sorry, because you can't always accept apologies straight away. Exactly. And that's all I have to really say about her. I think she's more. I agree with what Shane said before. She's the more the girls' generation. She very much represents what she represents very well. She doesn't make it totally dark, but she doesn't make it look like, oh, it's an okay thing to stan, even though girls these days do stan Cassie, but it's like, well, it's down to the relatability again with her character. And I'm sort of just going to end up rambling on like I have a little bit with this character. So what's your overall thoughts, Connor?
Going back to the point of Sid, actually, there's something I forgot to say. So in terms of like Sid cheating on Cassie, like when he kind of broke up with her after like he thought that he was cheating on her, like, and then he went out and slept with Michelle and everyone else. Like I did like that character development in him, even though it was bad. It kind of just felt that, like, you know, because like in the beginning, like you thought that Sid was really confused and like he could really do no wrong. And it was kind of nice to see that Sid like actually does shitty things. Made him more human.
Yeah.
For Cassie though, I liked Cassie's character. It was a pretty. I'd say for the most part, it was like a pretty realistic portrayal of like anorexia and mental illness. But in terms of her character though, she did have the right to actually like kick off at Sid and kick off at Michelle.
She very much did have that.
And then she was very, very fucked up though. Like she was very fucked up in the head. I mean, especially when she like kind of snapped. And then decided to tell Jel what Chris said. Which was really shitty of her, but then again, like she kind of had the mentality of like, if I can't be happy, then like no one else is, and she was kind of like airing out everybody's dirty laundry.
I think that instances where she's a bitch to Michelle and at times Sid in season 2's acceptable. That's the area where I think people are starting to be like, oh yeah, she's just a total bitch. With the whole thing with Chris and Jal, she very much cares for Chris and Jal. You very much see that because they're the ones that, even like Chris, in middle of season 2, starts to care for her a lot and stick by her. And yeah, they have, as we'll get into, Jal and Chris have their own problems, and she's living in that house. She's got her own problems. And yeah, at times she can be a bitch, like the example you have said. But it's not just from the whole thing with, oh, it's because I can't be happy and that, why should anyone else be? It's also the fact is she even explains to the child, it's because you shall not keep... I think personally that if it's a tad small secret, you can keep it from your partner. But if it's a massive thing like Jal's hiding and a little bit of what Chris is hiding, you should tell your partner. Because that's even what fucked her over with Sid. Very much never hid anything from Sid. But Sid obviously kind of didn't hide things from her. So yeah, she's very much right. You shouldn't lie to your partner about anything. But again, it does come down to the point where she's like, "Oh, you can't be happy if I'm happy." Because again, they're literally living in the same house. Fair enough. Like it's come down to the example where I think if people were in, like, not even just in that situation, right? Like, overall example is that if you just went through a load of shit in your relationship, and fair enough, you're starting to build up on your relationship again with that partner, and you live in a house with this couple, which even without their problems are like fine and randy dandy with each other, you obviously are going to get quite pissed off because you're always going to be in that environment unless you have a walk or something. I think that's all. Again, I love Cassie's character, but I don't really think I have much to add on to that. Have you got anything to add on?
I think the stands are a bit weird. I don't think it's all the writing. It's just what I mean, like, with any community.
With any community,
Stan
to be honest.
will always, like, stand something that's kind of toxic.
Yeah, it's what I've been saying to you guys, private calls. This is overall a comment about skins as a whole, but I feel like it's like, especially with men and women, it's like back in like 10 years ago, people used to root for like the characters that are like either the most relatable or have the best arcs. And now I feel like people sort of just start standing characters because of their mental illnesses. Like, yes, you tell these people what to do when you're going through your own problems. But it's the fact is, yeah, fair enough to be trying to be strong, but it's like you can't stand every single character on this. I feel like with Cassie's, yes, it's a bit odd. But we're like season 2, Cassie, yeah, fair enough, she doesn't totally fix herself, but when she starts snapping at people, I could start to see like, oh yes, finally tell them how you're feeling. But it's like, just quickly gonna point this one out. Harley Quinn's character, fair enough, Harley Quinn's character has a lot of depth in the comic books, but in Suicide Squad, which most of the stands come from, this was even before Birds of Prey. Don't get me started on this if you're a DC watcher. People stand Harley Quinn, and that's the biggest example of that. She wasn't written well, and she had all these problems, so people started standing her. That's where it comes. That's where it can come from. Where it goes bad. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say with the whole standing with Cassie specifically.
Yeah, because I mean, like, she wasn't really glorified
Mm-hmm.
in any way. Like, it wasn't shown to be a good thing.
No, it wasn't totally dark, but it wasn't good either.
Mm-hmm. And I think the people who do that are just kind of, that's on them.
Mm-hmm. You can't really tell people what to like, can you?
No.
So, moving on to Christopher. Specifically, just call him by Chris, as a lot of people, including characters in the show, do. Another relatable character, to be honest. All of these God, bit of a voice break there. My bad. All of these characters have got relatable qualities to them. I would even go to extent Sketch kind of has a bit of relatability to her, but Chris is one of them characters where they have a lot. Chris went through a fucked up childhood, and he fucks, specifically in the first season, he focuses on partying to get over that. And it even comes to and with this relationship, which people support, but I don't, is the whole thing with him and Angie. I don't support it because I feel like the whole reason why he goes for Angie is because the adult figure which he can relate to, so he falls in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where that comes from. So overall, I feel like he's a very relatable character, and he doesn't do everything great like Sid or Cassie as well, but he's got such a warm heart by most of it though. You feel like, obviously, it's a fact, every single generation of this always has at least one dead character by the end of it, and he's that example. And to be honest, his death is honestly one of the best out of them 3 examples. Other than maybe Gen 2's and Brady, but I feel like Chris's was a little bit more aimed at. But yeah, he has the whole thing with his brother. He has the same illness in him. That's where most of his childhood stuff comes from. And yeah, I'm rambling on a bit, repeating myself, but relatable, and I feel sorry for his death a lot, and that also comes back to Cassie, where that's one of the things that impacts her a lot to run away. Yeah, he's I'm not totally related to him with everything per se, but I can very much see that a comment, because it's all about, it all is written to be realistic things that happen with young teens in Britain, and that's a very big thing. But I see with a lot of young people, even back then, that happened a lot. So yeah, not really got. That's my overall comments. What's yours, Connor?
Chris was probably my favorite character, like second, like to Sid. I liked his writing particularly because, like, a lot of his stuff can be justified by, you know, having that pain of loss, and like anybody who kind of gets close to him just kind of goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of why he becomes kind of dependent on Angie. And like he's so kind of hung up on like trying to like impress her and trying to get rid of that, like eventually it just kind of destroys him in a sense, really, because like she's got a husband and like and all of that stuff. Like he's fucking heartbroken by it, and like all he's trying to do though, it's not even just about sex. It's like he's trying to like find somebody who's like an adult figure in his life and who he can get close to and who's not gonna leave him.
Mm-hmm.
Because his brother's died, his dad's fucked off, and then his mum just goes, you know what, fuck this, I can't take this.
Exactly.
And you just feel fucking sorry for him because
No, even before his death as well, she comes back And that's before Cassie comes running in to find him crying about all the shit that he's feeling sad for himself. It's so fucking heartbreaking to see, like, a few hours before his death, his mother was almost about to come back. Before she ran off again, because she obviously knows that he's got the same illness and the brother that fucking tore their family to apart. So...
There's one thing I feel awful about, though, was the one thing that I really do not like Cassie for is, like, do you know how I said that she was like, if I can't be happy, then no one can?
Mm-hmm.
I reckon that if she hadn't have told Chris that she'd left, he would have shagged Angie.
Exactly. So she did good and bad in that sense, because yeah, she shouldn't have done that to like mess the fuck his head around. But at least it stopped them from making one of the biggest mistakes he's made with one of his most impactful relationships in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Because personally, yeah, I agree with Shane's comments where he's like, oh, we've seen a little bit of a thing with Posh Kenneth and Jal at the end of season 1, but yeah, maybe not a first viewing, but after you watch it and you know what happens, when you rewatch it, like, actually in season 1, I see them interacting and you can sort of see where that's going to go in season 2. So it's really weird.
You see, in terms of the whole Chris situation, though, like, the whole Chris sleeping with Angie thing was kind of like, it was like trying to cling on to some sort of stability, because like he'd thought that, like, you know, Jal had just fucked off and left the blue. And his character's really tragic because, like, he literally explains that, like, you know, he's not even a perfect character, but he just explains that, like, why he ended up sleeping with Angie, and then, like, that everyone's left to him, and then like, Jal ends up forgiving him, and, like, as soon as he gets that forgiveness, as soon as she forgives him, they start a happy life. And he moves in, right? He's like, you know, he's got, like, a new job, and then, what? Shortly after, like, he's got a wonderful girlfriend, and she tells him that he's having a kid. And then he's, like, ready for it, and then he's ready to support her no matter what. And then he has a fucking aneurysm, and then... And it's like... And it really, really fucked with my heartstrings, to be fair. Like, because, like, when he was better, I was like, thank fuck. And then... Just seeing him, like, you know, because he was having a joint with, like, Cassie as they were watching a film, right? And then she got him a Monkey Man shirt. That he fucking loved. And then, like, he was talking about how happy he is, and he couldn't even remember Gel's name.
That's what I was about to say. That's one of the most saddest moments in that show.
Was heartbreaking, honestly. And
where he was like, he knew his life was getting on, like, sort of, and he was like, he's there standing happy, but it's something stupid as, like, a monkey t-shirt, but it's a thing he loved, like, monkeys were a thing that he loved, and he loved being called the Monkey Man. And he was like, yeah, my life's getting on track, I'm starting to be happy, and he's like, I love this girl. As soon as he's about to say, I love this girl, he's like, wait. Like, he starts to forget everything, and he's like, wait, who would love this again? And all that, and you're like, oh no. And then all of a sudden, it's the way he drops, but then it's... The one thing I'm sort of thankful for is that he remembered her in his last moments, he re-remembered her name.
It was so sad, though, like, it was, like, a bittersweet kind of ending, really, because, like... Even his death, though, like, with, like, the blood coming out of his nose and mouth, like, fucking hell, it wasn't even, like, even the
music. It was brutal.
It was such a brutal fucking death. It was horrific. Because, like, he was such a well-loved character, like, especially by me, and I was like, fucking hell, like, I was really, really happy for, like, Chris getting his life together, and then the next thing, next thing we know, fucking, he's dead. And, like, his arms.
Even if you wasn't going to be the richest dad, and yeah, it would have been chavvy type family, unless Jal did specifically well. I feel like he would have been a brilliant fucking father. He would have learned from his father's mistakes.
The thing is, like, he was ready to be a father, and, like, even though he didn't really have much, right? Even though he wasn't really successful by society standards, though, like, he would have still done his absolute fucking best. He would have done his absolute fucking best, and then he dies.
And I think
so fucking tragic.
And I think with all that, with, like, talking about him, like, forgetting her name, sorry, and then getting it back, I think we should just move on to Jal's character.
Hell yeah.
Jal, I would say, unless all the stuff happened.
1 minute, can I just go get a drink? I'm just gonna
That's
get a drink
fine.
'cause I haven't really drunk too much. I've just been eating me tea.
That's
So,
fine. I'll just carry on top my just ask about
okay.
yours. So, to the people that he's watching, I'll carry on the solo, and I think Gokuja is listening, but he unfortunately can't join in. What I was saying about Charlie is that if nothing happened with her in season 2, she would have honestly been like, yeah, she had attitudey moments, right? Like, oh, she's fairly decent as a character, but I feel like she would have been the Michelle. You're like, what was the point of her and like main plot points to be there? What would be the point in their character until around season 2? We see her and Chris obviously get together. Chris is more the focus of that relationship, but just focus on that relationship first. She has her own family thing, which I'll get into. We see her starting to fall in love with someone that's not the complete that seems to be the complete opposite of her, but it's not at the end of the day. Yes, she has a rich life, sort of a rich life. Yes, she had her dad be there. Yes, she's got money. Again, she's got money. She's got all of this and that opposite than Chris. The end of the day, lost lives, and she finds him. They find each other being really relatable to each other, and they fall in love. And again, it's heartbreaking Chris's death because they're the relationship that I think everyone could say they rooted for on this show. Everyone I think would say that they really want them two to get together and stay with each other for the rest of their lives. Oh, hello. So what I was saying there was that I think the whole point about, like I said, basically quickly saying, is I feel like if she never had a development in season 2, she would have been like Michelle. I wouldn't really have seen a point of her being there. But overall, to me, is that I've mostly finished about her and Chris's relationship. But I said, basically, yes. If you have an overall look at her, she seems to. She has this. She has that. That Chris doesn't, and she has something. She doesn't have some things that Chris does. Which was her family.
The whole gel thing, actually.
Yeah, just quickly going on to a family part of it. Like,
sorry.
I feel like her whole thing with her family was like, yeah, that's the main other fuck she has, which is a lot in season 1. The whole thing with the clarinet. You mentioned her dad gives it back. She does have the relationship with her father and even her brothers to some extent because her mother left. And that just resulted in a lot of things. That's the thing that Chris did have for a while before, obviously, his mother went. But that's the thing that broke her down a lot and made her angry and made her frustrate people to tell them that her honest truth. And at the end of the day, I feel like that's the thing that's the thing that people are like,
What was I saying, dude?
hmm?
So, in terms of Giles' character, though, like, she was very caring towards everybody else. She was kind of like the whole Sid. She was kind of like the Sid of, like, the female group, really. Like, she kind of bent over backwards for everybody else, and yet, like, no one really paid any attention to her. But instead of, like, her becoming, like, independent, she kind of stuck with being kind, but she didn't really take shit from anybody. like especially in season 1, like where she was trying to help Michelle, and then Michelle just went "fuck you," and then she just went, "Okay, you know what, screw you." But like, her kindness was still retained though. Like she didn't really feel the need to change because of like how people were ungrateful. Like evidence in season 2 when she believed so much in Chris. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was such a really like good character development, even though it didn't. Her as a character didn't really develop much. She was just very kind as a character, and also going back to what you said of the family life, though, like it must have been really difficult for her as a character, though, to like grow up without a mom, and then like especially her dad was like would like taunt her about being like her mom, like looking exactly like it, and then, but then like her interaction with the dad kind of changes when he tells her to go up to her room, and then he's left like a clarinet because it's got smashed.
Yeah.
And that was a really sweet scene, though. It kind of shows that her dad actually does care, but he's just very like closed off as a person.
Totally agree. But yeah. Is that all you have to really say? Because...
Yeah, I'd say that, and also just the whole Chris and Giles relationship was just really sweet. Like, I don't know, she was just like seeing her believing Chris and just being so kind to him, even when like Chris didn't really try that much, and like the fact that she gave him kind of the strength to try.
Yeah. So
amazing.
I totally agree. So just before moving on to the next character, Discord keeps cutting out, so I'm not streaming this currently. If parts keep cutting out, I cannot keep repeating myself over and over. So, and well, Connor can't really do that as well, because we'll just have to keep moving forward. But if stuff keeps cutting out, I'm sorry that you cannot hear it. But if you guys want to talk to me privately about this, I'm happily to talk about this show a lot, especially this generation. Since admittedly it's my favourite generation on the whole of the show. So yeah, quickly moving on to, we've got 3 characters left before I can just quickly move on to episode, like just say our 2 favourite episodes, and then just go on to the quick facts about it all. Then we could finally finish off this whole thing. I feel like we should quick fire 2 of these characters personally, but 2 of them are very good characters. First one, Maxie. Maxie, to me, overall, he represents the gay side, because homophobia was still a massive thing back in the day. Yeah, his family accepted him, as I said in the second episode, but we see in season 2 that his council doesn't really respect that. And when it comes to the point where it comes to people that are still in the closet, because back then, again, wasn't really a thing that you would straight out go and say, saying, Mum and Dad, I'm gay, or society, I'm gay. So the point where he even starts thinking out of a character that sort of hides the fact that he's gay himself. And yeah, he does have the best he doesn't have the best scene, he doesn't have the best writing or the best scenes, but I feel like the way he's portrayed by his actor and what they did right for him was very much well done. In some people's instance, he's one of them people that people can sort of stand recently because he's good looking, and he has them scenes where he's like, I've had enough of your shit. But honestly, with his side of it, I feel like he has the right to do that. Like, the one instance where I totally disagree with the way he acted was where he carried on kissing that lad that came up to him, because that's the thing that I personally hate about in some teen stuff, where it turns out, oh, this bully did this all along because they were in love with the person to get together. I feel like that's wrong to me. I'm like, why would you want to go out with someone that treated you so shittily? A bit like the whole thing with Tony and Michelle, but it's even worse to me. But the whole thing with do you know what? We'll just mention both Anwar and Maxie here. Anwar is, because they're pretty much all of their stories linked with them two being in it. Their whole dynamic is that one's gay, and then obviously Anwar is Muslim. And Anwar is the least developed, even more least developed than Michelle, in my own opinion, other than the Russian episode, which is overall about Maxie and Anwar, and the last episode of their generation. But he's one of them characters where he's Muslim, but he doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't, not even with just his culture, he doesn't know what he wants from life overall. And it comes down to the whole point is where their main focus with each other was, he's like, I don't think I want to support you being gay, because obviously that's wrong in my culture to the point where even in season 1 finale, he ended up being like, his dad went, it's a fucked up world. We can't help what other people feel at times, and he accepts Maxie for who he is, even with his culture. Which can I say was a really good scene, because back then that would have been one of the first like British things to fall and just turn around and say, we support this. And yeah, just that's my feelings towards these two characters. Not well focused, but overall I think Maxie's more developed, and I feel like Maxie is a great character. I feel like both the characters are great, and yeah, that's overall my summary about them, but I think there's more to go into if you just want to quickly go through them, Connor.
Wait, what are you saying? Sorry, I was kind of
saying,
something happened.
I went through basically the main character. I'm basically just saying here we're going to go through Maxie and Anwar like together here. I feel like I went through like both their main dynamics and the way they handled Maxie's and the way they handled Anwar's character, but there's more that I should have went through. But what's your overall opinion about them two characters?
The entire dynamic that those two had was really interesting, like especially when it came to like episode 6 of season 1, where but basically like, so I mean, Anwar was shown to be a massive fucking hypocrite, and all Maxie wanted was just like, you know, for his best friend to accept him.
Mm-hmm.
Which was, you know, it's like, well, you know, Anwar picks and chooses when his religion suits him, and it's either all or nothing at the end of the day. And then he kind of does grow from it, like he learns to accept it at the end of season 1. When like his dad just goes, you know what, like dude, forgive him whatever the fuck he's done. And then like, especially when Maxie comes to tell like Anwar's dad that he's gay, he's like, dude, he just says that God will give him the answers to stuff that he doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of the end of it, really. Like Anwar starts to accept him, and even though Anwar and Maxie don't really have too much of a dynamic in season 2, other than the whole like sketch thing when Anwar goes up with like sketch, and then Maxie just notices it. He's like, dude, why the fuck did you hide this from me? Like nothing really happened in terms of those characters, but I did like Maxie's character in season 2 because like he was just a pretty chill guy. Like he was always there for his mates, even though like he didn't really do too much. Like he was just like a pretty fun character, especially the whole dynamic with his dad and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing with his neighbors, like his neighbor being gay.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty funny, but like aside from that, like nothing really happened too much with his character though in season 2.
Yeah, very much Maxie is the more developed out of them, with him having his own episode with Tony at the start of season 2. But Anwar not even, like, fair enough, Maxie had 2 co-focus episodes, and Anwar had his co-one with Maxie at season 1, but there wasn't really any episode other than his dynamic with Maxie, where Anwar didn't really get a solo episode for himself, if you get what I mean. Because in the one where it's Maxie and Tony, we see their relationship where it shows that, yeah, he's a very caring person, hence why he cared for Tony a lot. But it's the point is where we didn't get any key episode where it focused on Anwar, other than maybe tad bits in the final, in both finals, where you see him starting to like have his dynamic with his father and his family, which is a tiny bit, and then that whole thing where it results because he didn't have any confidence in himself, because he didn't know where he wanted to be with just culture, that we find out. But overall, we do end up seeing that he ends up with Maxie, which is kind of sweet. So just to move on to our last character of Generation 1, which I did say this count, but I'll just put it on here for the sake of it, which you kind of just mentioned there, is Sketch. Hate a character, but it's just the way she is.
Yeah, like
She
I was
doesn't-
not a big fan.
She didn't overall have a thing like Tony where she was like, oh, I've totally seen my mistake. She sees her mistakes a tad bit, but I feel like she carries on trying to manipulate not Maxie, just Anwar to just carry on being with her, even though she's kind of sorts herself out. They don't really develop that well. I feel like she's just sort of made just a basic plot point, like one of the most basic plot points I could think to give to Maxie and Anwar, where it's like, oh, what can we actually, like, it's like the writers like, wait, what can we actually do other than like with a gay and a Muslim character back in them days to just go, oh, I don't accept you. Like, I guess we could just have a girl that fancies the gay one, but also the other one, and like, oh yeah, fair dues, we can go with that. But yeah, it's just other than that, I feel like the relatable thing that I mentioned about her before was the whole thing with her mother. That's a big thing in the UK as well. That they didn't really go through in the first one, other than like maybe season 2 at the start, they're like, oh, these parents have to look after like a disabled lad, but he wasn't disabled for a time. But this girl had to look after a disabled man for a long fucking time over these years, and even probably where she was very young after the carers couldn't look at, where the carers would just end up being like, oh, you can mostly do this now. Where it came to the point where they're just like, well, yeah, I wouldn't say they would totally end up the way Sketch was, but I would say people would pretty much be pissed and wanted the perfect life after that. It's as you said, it's a very strong contributor. It's the one with the lead up to being the most. This is the strongest point of why she would probably do this, but it's still not fully an explanation. But yeah, it's sort of like she just wants the perfect life after that, and she sees a pretty boy like Maxie, and she's like, oh yeah, she doesn't really care that he's gay and that. So that's the fact is, she's not just a bitch to them two, she's a bitch to Michelle. Like, fucking over Michelle to get what she wants, and then she also literally lies about a fucking teacher being a paedophile to get what she wants as well. In that episode, so...
Like, she was a very fucked up character, and it's kind of understandable why she turned out the way she did, but it was also just kind of... I don't know, it was just kind of uncomfortable, like, her character in general was just kind of very uncomfortable.
It's not bad acting, but it's the way the actress played her. She specifically played to make her creepy. It's like, oh shit. Yeah, have you got any more opinions about Sketch before we...
Wait, what do you say?
Before we move on, have you got any other things to talk about Sketch?
Not really, to be honest with you. Like, not a whole great deal, to be honest. Like, her character isn't really too in-depth for me to talk about, and like, you know.
Fair dues. So, just before I go, the facts are basically said, and I think we can just quickly. This is what's your overall favourite episode of this? Out of this whole generation, per se. Have you got one?
Pardon?
Just to move on to the quick point before going into the facts, what is your overall like favourite episode out of like this whole generation, if you've got?
I liked episode 9. Episode 9 was probably my favourite, but also the episode where I'd say probably the episode as well. Like, it'd be 2 between, like, one where like Chris gets his life together and actually gets the job and all that. Or episode 9. Where, like, Tony gets hit by a fucking bus.
Fair dues.
What about you?
My overall favourite episode is Sid's episode, season 2. We see that Sid's very much the relatable character, but we also see in this episode, we see a lot more relatabilities of him. We see that we finally see his full family of him and just his mum and dad, which we don't really see a lot out of these characters and skins. So I was really surprised at that. And then it was just the way they're like, oh yeah, we have this dickhead. We could have them dickhead type of grandfather, grandmothers. We could have them typical type cousins. We can have typical types of uncles, and we can all see them type of relationship happen in the family. And we also get to see why Sid's dad treats him like shit in this episode, where it comes down to the point where Sid's dad sadly dies after getting what he finally wants, like Sid should do himself, of like finally stand up to people, which I think is one of the main contributors is why he started standing up for himself instead of running away. Because fair enough, he stuck by Tony, but he still sort of ran away from Tony. So he was being strong first, but he still sort of ran away from like the whole condition after that. But overall, I think the way Mike Bailey played the character after all of the shit went down, and again at the end of it, starts to finally develop Tony and Sid's relationship to the point where he finally speaks to Tony properly after just saying a few words to him, and they fix upon themselves. They're not totally fixed, but we start to see them finally understand each other. So yeah, I'd say that's my favourite episode. There's a lot more to go into that. I think I got a lot more well into that in the overall, my summary part of it in the second episode we've done covering this series. So I think now to just end up wrapping it up is that I quick fire through these quick facts about Generation 1 of skins, and then we can just quickly head off after promoting our lovely selves. So let's just get right into this. So, right, Jamie Britton came up with the concept behind skins based on a short story he wrote when he was 50. He wrote like a short story centered around these characters growing up, which I think is kind of cool. I honestly think that this type of concept could be created by a young person themselves, couldn't it? But moving on, he eventually, when he fully came up with this whole show when he was a lot older, he finally pitched the idea to his famous TV writer dad, Brian Esley, and it was at a kitchen table one morning. I thought it was kind of funny. With it, this is the most interesting thing to us, because this was a big show on E4, and it most gets forgotten now, is within 24 hours of Brian pitching the show to his bosses at E4, Skins was commissioned. There's only 24 hours of him pitching it to E4. Took it. That's how much he worked on it. This probably explains a lot about Sid, but the character Sid was based on Jamie, one of the co-creators of the show. Jamie, a lot was the inspiration for Sid, so I think that's most of on him. Sid's dad was also based on Jamie's dad, Brian. The average age this is the most interesting one, which explains why this works, is the average age of a skins writer overall, the age of 21 other than the main creators.
Jesus.
The auditions for the first series only took place in a church hall in Bristol, because again, it was very short, because it was very small. This is what I said to you guys yesterday, but the word Bristol isn't even overall used in the show, so we don't even hear the word Bristol in this generation either. Funnily enough, the guy who plays Freddy, Luke Pasquilio, I think that's his full name is, he actually originally auditioned for them before they came back to him to play Freddy in the next generation. The school which everyone attends was filmed in John Cabot Academy and SGS Wise Campus and Henbury School. So shout out to them school. If you're eventually watching this sometime in the future and you go to it, shout out to your school for letting the creators film this show. A lot of the show's nightclub scenes were also filmed in the Henbury School as well, so that's kind of cool to actually think about. I'd love to hear more about the production behind of all that, how they filmed it. The guy who plays Posh Kenneth in the first two series actually was a writer on the show. He wasn't a particularly big writer, but he wrote small plots for main characters out there. I don't know which part he wrote up to, but he wrote small things in the show. He was part of like the 21-year-old team in it. Filming for the Russian episode in Series 1 actually took place in Lithuania, not Russia, which kind of makes sense. Harry Enfield actually agreed to play Tony and Effie's father in the show because overall, sorry, something happened there. It's overall because he's friends with Brian Esley in real life. Larissa Wilson, who plays Jel, was first told, when she was first told to play the clarinet in the show, she thought the clarinet was a flute. A little similar to how Connor was like, "Oh wait, is it? It's not a flute, is it?" That's sort of funny to me. This is the fact that I said before. If you did not hear it, in a Twitter Q&A after the show ended, Jamie Britton finally revealed that Tony and Michelle probably stayed together. Probably, but I'll just say they did. Kaya, who plays Effie in the show, got scared last minute when she was going to audition for the role of Effie, and decided against going into her overall audition, and eventually she went outside for a cigarette, and that's when she started talking to Brian Esley, who is again one of the show's creator, who insisted that she should come in to have a proper audition. So if that did not happen, we might have not got the Effie we overall got from the show. In the second series, Anwar recites Hugh Grant's filmography since 1992 to make himself last longer during sex with sketch. Afterwards, he claims that he couldn't make a part 2s about a boy, which stars Nicholas Hoult, who plays Tony in the show. Effie is the one character to appear in more than less 3 series of Skin, but because obviously she was in 1, 2, 3, 4. She was the longest running one, and then she returned for her episodes in season 7. In series 4, the girls watching Naomi and Emily ride a scooter are actually an Easter egg to series 1. They are all wearing Abigail Stock's school uniform from Generation 1. Fun fact for Generation 2 as well, again, Cook's dorm room he actually moved into is the same one that Chris lived in. And funnily enough, they're both the characters that end up being expelled from the school. And that is every single fact I have got. We can quickly just wrap this up now to say, like, sort of like plug ourselves in more if you do the channel. But essentially, Connor has left the call for some reason. I've heard you a bit, Shane, so are you okay with just promoting yourself quickly a little bit?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Gokuja, or as you already know, I am the co-host of Web Nostalgia, along with Sean. I make anime and manga content over on my main channel, and I've actually put out a new video today, so if you guys are interested in that sort of thing, go check it out. Also, I have a Patreon, which is Gokuja One. It helps both Web Nostalgia and Gokuja out, as we mix both of the stuff on there together through outtakes and even like unseen like things that we might have recorded. So keep a lookout for that very, very soon. On top of that, we also do the Gokuja Talks podcast, which is obviously a podcast where we go over monthly things. So if you kind of enjoyed this type of content, maybe you'll enjoy that. And apologies for me not being here all stream. It's been a very weird night tonight. There's been a lot of noise and there's been everything else. But thank you to Sean for actually carrying the stream, to be fair. Thank you for that. And yeah, with that being said, I think we're going to end the stream off. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this stream, please leave a like or sub. It really helps the channel out a lot. And with that all being said, we have been Web Nostalgia, helping you relive the nostalgia. And we will see you all later, and peace. Have a good one.